Well, Michigan State loses one of their better assistant coaches, one of their best recruiters 2 days before signing day. Will probably lose some commits because of it. Aidan Chiles says he doesn't care about some fans anymore. But other than all that, I got to say, offseason's going pretty good so far.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for being a masochist here and tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, and also don't prepare for a full show of just, football talk, or as I like to call it, doom and gloom. Third segment, we're talking about your number one ranked Michigan State hockey team with our guy Jeremy Dewar of Spartans Illustrated. But before all that, we got some football items to get to. Yes, we are going to go over Aidan Chiles' post-game comments about fans, his other teammates. I think there was a lot of layers to what he said. But hey, would you look at that? This news just came across my little blotter before we started recording. Coach Demetrice Martin, Coach Meat. Who cares how you say his first name? Coach Meat. I thought the transfer portal was only for players this early on in the offseason, but he is already setting off to UCLA. That's right. Woo, all right. Great start to the offseason for Michigan State right now. And no, UCLA is not his alma mater. That would be Michigan State. And he did play here. He did come home last year and, immediately went back to California. And no, like I said, it's UCLA, not a powerhouse, not a sleeping giant that he's necessarily leaving us to go to. It's just old UCLA. And is it to be like a defensive coordinator? Is he going to get this big promotion? A promotion sizable enough to leave your alma mater after 1 year here? See, what do we got here? No. Actually, it's just to coach the secondary over there also, and also be the passing defense coordinator. So a little bump up, but probably nothing Michigan State couldn't have matched. Perhaps. I'm just spitballing here. This is all per David Woods of Bruin Report Online, and then Corey Robinson of Spartan Tailgate were the first people on this. Also, Jim Comparoni of On3, he posted about it too. So it's pretty much official, which if you look at the calendar, December 2nd, the last 2 days before early signing days. So why the meltdown, Matt? Why am I getting so bent out of shape over just one little positional coach? God, they grow on trees, for crying out loud. Just go pluck another one. Well, that's the issue. The date on the calendar. 2 days before signing day. And, Coach Meat was credited for getting 4 guys in this class. One of them, LaRue Zamorano. He's a corner from California. He tweeted right after this Coach Meat news started brewing, decisions. Well, I'll spoil it for you. Not to be a mean adult and spoil a kid's announcement, he will be flipping to UCLA in the very near future. He's visited the Bruins. I'm sure the coach that recruited him to come to Michigan State now going to UCLA, well, that's going to put the bow on top of that present for the UCLA Bruin program. So let's just cut to the chase here. I'd be shocked if LaRue puts pen to paper to come to East Lansing next year. Now, Terrence Edwards, hey, that's the kid you just flipped from West Virginia, cousin of legend Felton Davis. Okay, fine. You know what? I'd be a little surprised if he decommits and flips that quick in a short amount of time, but crazy things happen in college football. You never know. Aidan West, spoil this one too. Would highly doubt he comes here. He visited Ohio State recently, and I know great things are going on down in Columbus, but on a more realistic note, things are probably still going better down there than they are up here. Ohio State, better stature in the college football world than here. I would expect Aidan West to flip too. Now, George Mullins down in Florida, no indication that he will flip or anything. He did post a graphic not too long ago before recording that. He's still going to sign with Michigan State. I like George Mullins. I thought he was a really nice diamond in the rough find down there, played in the smallest division down in football-rich state Florida. But nevertheless, look, if or when LaRue Zamorano flips, well, now you have 15 kids, and now your class is ranked 62nd in the nation. And let's say Aidan West, he flips too. You lose both Zamorano, you lose both Aidan West 2 days before signing day. You gotta laugh, or otherwise you'll lose your mind. Or I guess you could do both, like I am. If you lose both kids, Michigan State sits 67th nationally in recruiting, and that is 4 spots behind Oregon State. That's also behind Georgia State, too. You're barely ahead of Florida Atlantic, but like, oh my God. Oh my God. How's it gotten this bad? So quick. Lordy. Look, and also, too, what you're missing, a good coach with Coach Meat. Charles Brantley, he was like a fine player in his career, but my goodness gracious, if the kid could stay healthy, he would have been one of the better corners in the whole conference. When he was healthy, this kid showed out. So that's not nothing that Coach Meat was able to do. And yes, the whole unit, like as a group, didn't have a fantastic year, but they also had a new dead person on their depth chart seemingly every single week. We were one more week away from you. Yes, you. Playing safety or corner for this Michigan State team should the season have continued. But, of course, it didn't. We don't continue seasons after 12 games here in East Lansing. So now what? I don't know. You have 14 kids if those 2 kids decommit in your signing class. And that's, I guess you could try to flip some MAC or GLIAC kids to fill out this class. Yes, you can use those spots in the transfer portal. That's where all of our hope lies this offseason, in the transfer portal. But, oh boy, not great. We also got some not great quotes from Aidan Chiles, too, after the game. We're going to talk about that in the second segment. But let's keep the good times rolling. All right, let's keep the vibes high with our guy, Luke. He reached out to us, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. He writes in, remember at the start of the season, you were defending Smith and Chiles and said, quote, if the problems are still there in November, we might have to reevaluate. Remember? We remember. It's December now. Can we maybe reevaluate our $1 million quarterback, or is he still, quote, too young? How about our $50 million ball knower of a coach who routinely gets housed by teams with less talent? Maybe time to admit the doomsayers had a point all along. Now, Luke, I got to say, you brought me into a time machine there, because I went back to 7th grade when I came home with a report card with about 3 Ds, 2 Cs, and a B- in gym. And the tone of that email kind of reminded me of my dad's tone that day. He wasn't the happiest camper. Don't think Luke too thrilled with what we had to say early on this season. He's coming back with some receipts here. Understandably so. Now, first and foremost, look, I'll be upfront about it. We said as much after Saturday's very close game against Rutgers. The season was a failure. Not just because you didn't reach a bowl game. It is a little more nuanced than that. Yes, we did say that it will be success if you make a bowl game, failure if you don't make the bowl game, but it even goes further than that. You didn't see a lot of improvement with position groups around the field. And you know what? Just like we mentioned, you got throttled by Rutgers, Illinois. The Purdue game that was hairy. Let's just go ahead and break this up point by point. Aidan Chiles, I'll also say this, not perfect. Okay, I said after Saturday that, yes, he improved. Maybe not as much as you'd hope that he would improve throughout the season. But if you make a line graph, it went up. He did improve throughout the season. I know you guys don't want to hear it, perhaps, okay? He still missed passes at the end of the year. I get it. Far from a finished product. But look, he also still showed his upside, right? You know what? Luke points out in the email, we're going to have to reevaluate if the same problems are there in November than they were early in the season. Well, guys, what was the problem with Chiles? It was turning the ball over. That was one of his problems, the biggest problem. In the first 6 games, he had 8 turnovers. He had just 3 in the last 6. I mean, there was improvement there, guys. I know we're all upset. I know we're passionate. I'm one of these people. I'm fired up too. But you did see a little bit of improvement on Chiles. Now with Smith, that point, getting dummied by those teams late in the season, injuries or no injuries, that is a concern. And I will say, the other teams that Michigan State got rolled by didn't have less talent. I get we're upset. And I get what you're saying here. It's inexcusable to lose by that much to Rutgers, Illinois, whether they're unranked or ranked. But I think the talent, if you stacked it up for those games, was pretty comparable to one another. I'm not saying Michigan State was way behind in talent. I think it was comparable. But I will agree with this. You can't get blown out in those games. So, yes, we're upset, but let's talk about it with the lens of reality here. I don't think we had this great talent advantage all of a sudden, but look, I'll end the first segment like this. I am in no position to tell anyone to believe in Smith or not believe, especially with this news that just dropped today. One of your better assistants leaving. I still believe in Smith, and maybe part of that is just the stone cold reality that, like, we're not going to fire the guy this offseason. Like, he is going to get at least a second season, probably a third season. But more importantly, like, he has built that program over at Oregon State. He has shown that he has done it. So this isn't like some assistant coach that has never done it, weighing over his head. I think that he still has a plan moving forward. But yes, am I way less confident than I was a few months ago? Certainly. I'd be an idiot to not admit that. If there's one thing you can count on me for, it is admitting when I am wrong. Like, we get things right on this show all the time. And just like Luke pointed out, we can get things possibly wrong here on this show. So, yeah, I'm still a believer. I'm just not like that chest-beaten confident one. So let's give him one more offseason. It's a big few weeks coming up for Michigan State. And, hey, this offseason was kicked off by those Aidan Chiles comments after the game. We're going to get into that, of course, but first I need to talk your ears off about Game Time. I don't know why I'm singing. I'm just singing to keep myself from crying at this point. Hey, Game Time, the best ticketing app out there. Michigan State basketball fans. That's right. Hey, that season's looking still okay as of now. If you're looking to get to a game, mosey on over to Game Time. They are going to hook it up for you this college basketball season. Or, hey, you know what? NBA season, if you're a Pistons fan, or NHL. Wherever there's a ticketed event going on, even concerts, comedy shows, whatever it is, Game Time will hook you up with their flash deals in the weeks leading up to that event. Well, you could save a lot of money with great tickets in great sections. Or let's say you make up your mind the day of that you want to go to said event. Guys, those last-minute ticket deals are also there for you, too. They will also be up even a little after the ball is tipped in a basketball game. They really treat you well over at Game Time, and they want to hook you up right off the bat because, well, when you create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. It's that easy. Download the Game Time app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. What time is it? It's game time. We got plenty of emails after the game. I actually can't think of another game where we got more emails after at LockedOnSpartans@gmail.com. Like, just when you think this fan base is apathetic, just a pounding against Rutgers, flooded, guys. A lot of different tones, a lot of different questions, comments. A lot of them, though, on Aidan Chiles' comments post-game. Sorry we did not get to it over the weekend. I think he said these when we were doing our post-game show, but I think they were a little too candid to just move on from. I think there's a lot of layers to what he said. Now, yes, he did talk about the fans, said, I no longer care about the fans, but there's something more important that he said after that. And I know that, us fans, we don't like our feelings getting hurt, but let's focus on like what is actually important here. And that is the guys in the locker room, the teammates. Now, he was asked about, well, what's going on after the first drive, because Michigan State is extraordinary in their first drive, and then they'll continue to get pounded the rest of the game. Now, he said, quote, we have this mentality of we don't know how to finish games. Also said, you know what? We might have an easing off mentality, or here's the damning part, quote, maybe I just don't want to play. Now, he's talking about his teammates having that mentality, not him. Going on to say, I don't know what that attitude is. I've never had that attitude, and I've never seen that before. It's sickening. It's disheartening. That's candid. To talk about teammates like that. Not throwing them under the bus. I don't think it was in a malicious way, but that is an upfront way of painting the picture of, well, kind of maybe how this season ended. And this is great timing for that quote ahead of portal season. Next Monday, the transfer portal opens. Now, of course, you can make your announcement beforehand, which there might be one coming out right now as we record. So you can make your announcement. It officially opens next Monday. So with that said, guys, here's your reminder. Portaling is a two-way street. Sometimes it's the kids making the decision. Other times it's the team making the decision. Michigan State will be seeing, I don't want to say plenty of kids. I don't think it's going to be upwards of like 30 or 40 kids leaving, but I would expect a healthy chunk to go to the portal. Now, with that said, it's not all about departing for NIL money, okay? Now, it's also not always about, well, sometimes you just got to let a kid loose to build a healthy culture. So not all kids that leave are leaving for an NIL bag, or not all kids that leave are leaving because they are a cancer in the locker room. So really, it could be plenty of reasons, and what we're going to try to do here is something really hard, something that I struggle with. Just like not jump immediately to conclusions when you see a kid's name in the portal in the next few days and weeks. But I thought that was fascinating by Chiles because you hear whispers, I guess, that like, oh, maybe the team entirely isn't bought in. And it's like, well, I don't know if I really believe that. I'm certainly not going to say that here on the podcast because there's no way of verifying that until your quarterback says it right after the game that, yeah, maybe not entirely everyone was bought in. Now, if you want to blame Jonathan Smith for that, I get it. Now, I call me an apologist for him, but when it comes to building culture like that, look, they got rid of some kids in last year's transfer portal cycle. After seeing how, your teammates respond to adversity throughout the season, well, that's part of the one-year trial of the rebuilding sessions. So sure, if you want to hang that over Smith's head, I get it. Not going to argue on it. I just think, you know what, this is going to be an important offseason, whether it's bringing in talented culture players here, also getting rid of them. Hey, you know what? I'll benefit of the doubt. I'll give you one more offseason because, well, there's nowhere else to go. Now, of course, that's not the only thing Chiles said. Plenty of you guys were not happy with his comments about the fans because he was asked about, what can make fans feel better about the future. This is how the press conference started. And he said, quote, "I no longer care about the fans at all. I promise you I don't, except for the people that stayed. That's cool. To the fans that stayed, this will not be the same next season. I can promise you that." Well, that's bold. So for lack of a better term to say right there. Now I'm going to try something strange here to start this part of the conversation. I'm going to be empathetic to the kid. And I know a lot of you people are sick of me being empathetic to anyone on this team, and I get it. I'm not happy with how the season went either, but you got Chiles who just walked off a snowy field, right, like pounded by 30 points. The game started with maybe 18,000 fans, and then ended with not even 1,800. So, I get why after a 5-7 season, incredibly disappointing. I can't imagine he was remotely close to being in a good mood, that he would pop off a quote like that, okay? I get it. And after I heard it, I was debating. I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe I like it. Good old chip on the shoulder. You're defiant about the next season. You also went ahead and, I called out some of the teammates too, the culture problems in the locker room too. Like, you know what? Heck yeah, let's right the ship. But no, at the end of it, no. That's, what are we doing here? Don't care about the fans? Do you know what the fans are starting not to care about actually in return? You guessed it right. It's Michigan State football. Okay, this is the third year without a bowl game. Now, obviously, the first two weren't Aidan's fault. One year he was in high school. The other one, he was at Oregon State. I'm not going to fault the kid for that, obviously. But you want to know why Saturday's crowd was maybe only a third full, if that? I don't know. Maybe it's the losing 6 out of 8 games going into that Saturday. Maybe it was the offense averaging 19.3 points per game. Maybe it was last week you guys scored 0 points in the second half and almost embarrassed yourselves against Purdue, which I got to say, Spartan Stadium was a lot more full for that one than it ever should have been. Maybe those fans left that game thinking, oh my God, I can't do this another weekend. Not on a Thanksgiving weekend, not when it's 18 degrees outside, not when it's snowing. No. Miserable weather, and guess what was even more miserable than that weather? It's how the team's been looking lately. Okay, you want to know why there's hardly anyone in the stands? It's a two-way street, especially in the NIL era, especially when you're getting paid more than just scholarships and book money. No. It's a two-way street now. You want the fans to show up like they were at the start of the season, in the middle of the season, and almost at the end of the season. Well, let's play a full season of good football, okay? And that's the kicker. That's maybe the kicker where people are getting so passionate about what he had to say, myself included maybe a little bit here, is that, no one wants to hear that in general, that they don't care about the fans. And again, guys, spur of the moment, a lot of emotion behind it. I wonder if he was asked that question an hour or a day later, probably wouldn't have said that, but it's out there. It's on the record. No one wanted to hear it. Well, no one wanted to hear it, especially when you're making more than 99% of people are going to be making this year. It's not a secret how much Chiles is making so far this season, right? I mean, he's probably even making more than 99.999999999% of people that were watching, not just in the stadium, but also from home because, well, rich people have literally anything else to do other than watch that game against Rutgers. So now what? Like, am I off the Aidan train? No, I'm not. I'm sure a few fans are, though, but I'm not. It's a fiery quote to end the season, of course, an incredibly immature one. But now what? Like, I don't mean this in a threatening tone, of course. I hope it's not taken like that, but you do have to back this season up now. Like, you do have to back it up next season. If you thought the quote last year of, hey, take the over, like, if you thought that was held over your head, don't expect fans that you don't care about hanging around after the first sign that, the going gets tough next season. That's a really good way to burn a bridge there by saying you don't care about them. So, look, the fan base stuck around for a lot of those rough times. They stuck around after the slog against Florida Atlantic to start the season. They stuck around after that 3-interception game. Could have been 8 interceptions against Boston College. They stuck around after dropping a stinker against Michigan. They stuck around after getting bombed at home against Indiana. And yeah, they stuck around for the Purdue game. Again, a lot more people at that game than there probably should have been. Also, not a great weather day, Friday night, anything else to do in the world. So, to hear that I don't care about the fans except the few dozen that stayed, yeah, that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. There really isn't a lot of defending it. There's reason why you could say it, which we've kind of done here. So I don't know. I like Aidan. I'm hopeful in his future. I think he did improve this year, but ooh, wow, that's a quote to end the season on right there. Gotta back it up next year now, which, hey, maybe that's the chip you wanted to put in your shoulder. Well, it's on the team to start turning things around if you want to start calling people out. It's going to be an all-in effort. Fans, team, all included, I guess. So don't care about the fans. Okay. I'm sure he'd like to walk that one back, but I don't think he has. So I don't. He's got a social media account he could clear things up on, I suppose. But oh well, our great offseason we're having. Good God. Hey, hockey talk coming up next. But first, you need to talk your ear off about FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. I am sorry for the laughing. This is what you got to do to keep yourself sane in these moments. Hey, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one convenient place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. It was a beatdown in Buffalo last night. So what did I do? I fired up a same-game parlay for the second half to keep my attention somewhat involved in what was going on in the television. So shout out to FanDuel for your in-game same-game parlays. Guys, again, you will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch, and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Folks, we are joined by one of the greatest Spartans out there. No, not just because he brings us hockey analysis and insight whenever he joins us. Not because he does great work with Spartans Illustrated, but folks, Jeremy Dewar was one of 18 people in Spartan Stadium that stuck out the entire game. This man bleeds more green and white than Sparty and Zeke the Wonder Dog combined. Jeremy, have you thawed out from that game on Saturday? Thank you for joining us too, by the way, may I said.
Oh man, my spicy take is it actually wasn't that bad, but I will say it wasn't that bad because I am definitely in dad mode of like over prepared now. Like that's a game like a decade ago that I just wear like a pair of shorts under jeans and I'm like, why am I cold? Like, what's going on?
What's going on? Yeah, why isn't this 400-degree hot chocolate they serve at the concession stand still not doing the trick?
Yeah, I've definitely much more on the like I actually bought appropriate cold weather like stuff to do this. So totally feel like a mature adult now. So that's the only reason I can even say that. That's 100% a game that when I was a student at Grand Valley, I would have just gone there with shorts and jeans and just been done. So.
You're a seasoned veteran. And you're also flying high off the weekend because, look, our #1 Michigan State Spartans, they rolled through Lindenwood. If you could point that out on a map within a 100-mile radius, I will buy you a drink next time I see you. Michigan State won 4-0, 2-0. Lindenwood never scored a goal. That's the first time Michigan State has had back-to-back shutout wins against the same opponents since 2005. Not too bad. Michigan State sitting at 11-1-0 on the season. Jeremy, I know that last year's team, they set the bar high. Big Ten champions, Big Ten tournament. I know we're just 12 games into the season. I know that we have massive upcoming road series against Wisconsin and Minnesota. But with all that said, is this team better than last year's team already? Or do you still have to see it against those two teams that I just said, Wisconsin and Minnesota? For you truly to believe it, where are you at mentally?
No, I'm pretty safely feeling like they're better. I just think there's
God, this is great. Look at us.
Yeah, last year, I even to this point in the season, like they had a good start last year. But they had a lot of things that were just like consistent issues, like consistently taking too many penalties. I was really concerned about the blue line. First couple of weeks this year, I still had some of those concerns, but their discipline has been really good. And guys that were struggling, like Max Stravic was struggling at the beginning of the year, and he's a defenseman I thought needed to be kind of the top player back there. So that was concerning. And then like this weekend, I thought he looked great. Like there was, a couple turnovers, but those are going to happen, especially when Lindenwood is sitting back and just waiting to trap you into something. So,
gotcha.
I think I definitely more consistent contributions up and down the lineup. Like I don't really know where the holes are going to come. And the BC series to me shows the growth. Like they got ran off the ice by BC last year, like as they probably should have. And then the early season matchup this year, much better. So I don't think I need to see a test over any of those teams. Like honestly, the only team I think is going to be a great test. I think the Big Ten is going to be loaded, but I think matchup wise, Michigan is still going to be the toughest team for them just because they can exploit a lot of like where we're a little bit behind. I don't feel the same about Wisconsin and Minnesota.
Yeah, Wisconsin obviously not having the season that they've wanted to so far. They are 5-8-1. However, it's a hot Badger team. They have won 3 of their last 4 games. That 4th game was a tie that they ended up still winning in a shootout. And then, top 5 Minnesota. Minnesota's always strong every single year, loaded with NHL talent. What has to happen the next 4 games, 2 against Wisconsin, 2 against Minnesota, for you to still feel like, yes, this is certainly better than last year and everything that we thought this team could be is indeed going to happen? Is it 3-1? Is it 2-2? Is it something that even a record can't show, Jeremy? What are you going to be looking forward to the next 2 weekends?
I definitely think 3-1 is the goal, result-wise that you want out of it. And I think that they should be able to just handle Wisconsin. Like the Wisconsin was a team that even entering the season, I just didn't feel very highly about. So to be honest, the early returns made me feel really good. And so I'm going to blind spot over them getting better here because I just want to be right. So they had a slow start. They're just a different style of team. Like the coaching staff there is an odd fit for the Big Ten in that, they're going to coach a lot of older kids. They're going to coach, not so much high-end talent, but just guys that are like 4-year college guys. That's just going to be a weird fit in the Big Ten. They'll be consistent, but they won't. To me, they shouldn't be challenging for the top ever in the league unless everyone takes a step back. So I think Wisconsin, it's tough. It's a road environment. We haven't played a lot of road games to this point, and the ones that we have played have not been anything near the environment that you'll see at the Kohl Center. So I think that's going to be an important series is getting through that. And then, a split with Minnesota is probably what you want for a season long. So even if you go 0-2 when you're on the road, you got to go 2-0 at home. Like I think the goal is to split the season with them. So I'd like to come out of it 1-1 so you can come home, come back and say, like, all right, next series, if we can get 2, that's a 3-1. That's going to be tough for them to overcome you in the standings at that point.
That Wisconsin coaching staff comments, all that takes me back to the conversation that we had when, Charlie Stramel transferred here. He's a Minnesota Wild draft pick. Now, I said, look, is this a guy that's going to be an instant impact player? And I believe something along the lines of you said, he was drafted on potential. Wisconsin didn't utilize him correctly. Still be patient with him, even though, the Minnesota Wild drafted him. Am I capturing that correctly, Jeremy? Is that kind of where we left off with Stramel?
Yeah. Okay. I think for me it was like a concern of there's a lot of good vibes around the program, and I think I felt the same way when Isaac Howard came in. Like everyone jumped to oh my God, 1st round draft pick, he's here. It's like, well,
of course,
just keep in mind that not every 1st round draft pick's the same, especially if you're taken at the back end of the 1st round. Like you're thinking about, if you're in Isaac Howard's example, he was drafted when Tampa Bay was at the top of their game. At the end of the 1st round, they weren't trying to pick a player that was pushing for minutes within anytime soon. So they're thinking, hey, 4 or 5 years down the road, we can have a pretty good player here. It's the best we can get in the 20s at this draft pick. And one that we feel pretty secure in. So same with Stramel. And Stramel's the thing that he had was like, he's so huge. Like he's such a big kid. Like
he is a tank.
Looking at the lineup. Lindenwood this weekend had a really, really tall kid. And the only guy that we could even come close to was Stramel, but Stramel probably had 30 pounds on him. So he's an absolute tank. And he's really adjusted well. They struggled a little bit in the early season to get him going because they're kind of juggling the Lions, especially with Carson Dewar was hurt for a little bit there. They've actually put him on a line now with Isaac Howard, and the two of them are just kind of taken off. So it's been a little bit of a trying to find where he fits in, but he's starting to find a role here.
Yeah, he's fourth in the team in points right now, tied for fourth, I should say, tied with Matt Basgall. They both have 9 points apiece right now. So Stramel, despite him being an NHL draft pick, of course, is he still the surprise player of the season just because of how quick he's come along despite the slow start? Or is there even another player that you think we should have our eyes on as far as like surprise impact player, almost across sports? Who's the Jace Richardson of this hockey team, Jeremy? Who is stunning people right now early on?
I'll stick with a freshman now and then kind of like the Jace thing. So Shane Van Stege is the kid who came out of the national team development program, but just kind of a weird, different rise. Like 2 of the teammates he had aren't here. They're still playing junior, and they committed to MSU the first day they could in Austin Baker and Lucas Van Vliet. And I think Shane was someone who took a while at the NTDP to get going. You may hear my dog, by the way, in the background.
Spartan dog. That is Spartan dog. That's right.
But Shane took a while to kind of like get going at the NTDP, but he just, again, kind of like Stramel, he's a big kid, like really, really big. And as he adjusted to, I think, the physicality and what his size meant for him at that level, he started to come on. And then this year, he's in the lineup. He's one of the few freshmen that has gotten into the lineup consistently.
Gotcha.
And he's had a couple highlight reel goals. Like he's shown things that I didn't expect out of him. I expect him to just kind of be fourth line, dig along the walls, be a physical presence out there with some undersized guys. But he's got a lot more hands and speed than I ever thought I saw him making this adjustment. And I've seen some scouts talk about, he's moving up NHL draft boards too, probably into the middle rounds, the 2nd through 4th round. But that's not something that I think a lot of people were thinking of 12 months ago. So at this pace, he's going to just become a really big part of the team moving forward.
And you know what? When, just bringing the conversation back the next 2 weekends, Wisconsin, Minnesota, 2 of the games are going to be on Big Ten Network, not even Big Ten Network. Plus, we are moving on up in the world. Jeremy, thanks a ton for your time, your insight, your knowledge. We'd love to rope you back on here, either between those series or a little after that. We'll work on a schedule. I got to do a better job of bookkeeping myself, but we'd love to rope you back on here. Anything you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week before the number 1 Spartans face off again?
Yeah, just the work we're doing at Spartans Illustrated. We'll have a preview this coming weekend for the Wisconsin series, Minnesota after that, and then hopefully trying to get into a little bit of how are our recruits doing in that lag time between Minnesota and GLI. So definitely follow along.
There we go. Folks, we will be back tomorrow. Of course we will be. It's Locked On Spartans. We do this 5 days a week. Take care of yourself the rest of the day. Love you all. Even you, Jeremy. Go Green.